plus affidavits. And so when they say they were unable to find some details of some of the patients in terms of citizenship or gender, that's completely false. There are instances also where they say, from what we see, they weren't sure whether one was a recipient or a donor. As far as we are concerned, from our records, and we are saying 100% of our records, with mathematical absoluteness, we are given all those details. The other issue the committee has taken is the authenticity of the documents. Now, we seem to see a situation where the committee did not check up with any of them, because as I already said at the outset of my commentary, we supplied them with the details of contact either of the patient or of the people who referred the patients to us. And if there are any doubts about the signatures on the affidavits, the authenticity of the IDs, the authenticity of the passports, we would have expected that they would check with those respective entities. They did not. They merely just threw in an allegation that there was question of authenticity on the documents. And this includes the Israeli patients. And on this issue of the documents also, there is the allegation that the documentation that they were able to see had questions relating to identification. On that, we want to concede that on our part as Mediheal, when two patients come, that is the donor and the recipient come, and we are satisfied that they are eligible for the procedure, and they present their documents, and they have signed and sworn an affidavit. We did not have capacity to go and authenticate either their IDs or their passports. And so if the committee wants to say that indeed we did not go beyond the phase of what we were told and the phase of the documents we were given, we admit that is true because we did not have capacity. We also don't think that is what hospitals do, that the hospitals need to verify or second guess what their patients are saying. Now, there is the contention that we had very limited personnel. Okay, there is various allegations of personnel, that we did not have qualified personnel, we had Indian personnel, and that we had limited personnel to the extent that we were conducting surgeries using one surgeon and one anesthetist. And we want to say this, that Mediheal had two surgeons and 4 anesthetists. However, the distinguishing state of affairs at Mediheal is that their laparoscopic process is such that one anesthetist and one surgeon can conduct the surgery of both the donor and the recipient. And that was very possible because of the type of the cutting edge facilitation they had. And so we just want to answer that question by saying, yes, we had more than, we had 4 anesthetists and 2 surgeons, but the laparoscopic process that we had was such that one anesthetist and one surgeon can do that. And in Africa that was conducting laparoscopic kidney transplant. Of course, laparoscopic surgeries are there in Kenya on other medical services, but on surgery it was only Mediheal that was doing that, and that it was the 5th in the world that was doing that. Or rather, it was one of the 5 that was doing that. In terms of personnel also, we want to say that we distinguished ourselves by both having the best recruitment processes, we had qualified personnel. The Indian doctors that we were serving, who were about 300 out of 2,300 personnel at Mediheal. The Indian personnel represented about 14 or 13% of the total human resource establishment of Mediheal. And each of those non-Kenyan doctors went through the process of verification, certification, and licensing by the medical board. So it's not true that they sneaked in or that they were conducting their affairs in any improper manner. We have seen also that there are comments about their licenses. Each of them are up-to-date licenses. And so both our Kenyan personnel and our foreign personnel were highly qualified, And I am made to understand this, that they were the most, or rather, they were most highly paid. Probably the personnel, if you had an opportunity to talk to them, you could clean that. The other criticism that we've been subjected to is the allegation that we used unlicensed foreign laboratories. Now, the laboratories were used to determine the propriety of the gene matching between the donor and the recipient. And it's true, we used foreign labs, we want to admit that. But we want to say three riders to that point. The first one is that in each case where we outsourced the lab services, we had a contract setting standards of what we are expecting from them and providing for confidentiality of the patient material. Number two is that the committee was so forthcoming to criticize us, but do not acknowledge that indeed they do not have a policy, they do not have a rule, they do not have any regulations on how to deal with those laboratories, where you have to outsource the laboratories. And therefore, when we went out of our way to obtain contracts for that purpose, we think, as far as we are concerned, we distinguished ourselves and we took the necessary measures to secure our situation. And we were very diligent in making sure that the health of the patients and the data of the patients was protected. And as it is, as we speak now, there's nobody complaining, either that their specimens were abused, or that their confidentiality was misused, or that as a result of outsourcing those services, they have suffered an adverse medical situation. Probably two issues before I close. The committee, from what we see, went on to say that based on the pricing that Mediheal used, it is an indicator of the possibility that there was, I will use the word that is so captured verbatim by the media, that the Kenya might have become kidney source country. This is completely false as far as Mediheal is concerned. There is no time when Mediheal was involved in matching a donor and a recipient. I know I'm repeating this, Dr. Mishra said, but we just need to emphasize that. The secondly, there is no case where an un-Kenyan went away with a Kenyan organ. There is no case where an un-Kenyan went away with a Kenyan kidney. Every kidney of every Kenyan